not slowly over centuries, not through gradual decline, but suddenly, violently, and completely. According to an ancient account written more than 2,000 years ago, a powerful island nation once stood beyond the western edge of the known world. Its cities were magnificent. Its people were wealthy and ambitious. Its navy dominated the seas. Then disaster struck. Earthquakes shook the land, floods rose from the ocean, and in a single day and night, the entire island sank beneath the sea. No ruins, no survivors, only a story. For centuries, scholars believed the story was simply a legend, a philosophical tale created to teach a moral lesson. But over time, something strange began to happen. Archaeologists started discovering lost cities buried beneath the earth. Civilizations once dismissed as myth turned out to be real, and that raised a question that refused to disappear. Could Atlantis have been real as well? To understand the mystery of Atlantis, we have to travel back more than 2,400 years. The setting is ancient Greece. This was a time when philosophers debated the nature of reality. Democracy was emerging in the city of Athens, and knowledge was spreading across the Mediterranean world. Among the thinkers of this era, one man stood above the rest. His name was Plato. Plato was born around 428 BC into a wealthy family in Athens. As a young man, he studied under the philosopher Socrates, whose ideas challenged traditional beliefs about politics, morality, and truth. After Socrates was executed by the Athenian government, Plato became deeply disillusioned with politics. He turned his attention to philosophy instead. He eventually founded a school in Athens known as the Academy. It would become one of the first major centers of learning in the Western world. But Plato did not write ordinary textbooks. Instead, he wrote dialogues. These were philosophical discussions presented as conversations between different characters. Through these conversations, Plato explored ideas about justice, knowledge, power, and the ideal society. And in two of these dialogues, Plato introduced a story that would echo across history. The story of Atlantis. Plato describes Atlantis in two works, Timaeus and Critias. According to these dialogues, the story of Atlantis did not originate with Plato himself. He claimed it came from an earlier source, the Greek lawmaker Solon. Solon had traveled to Egypt many centuries before Plato's time. During his visit, he spoke with Egyptian priests who possessed ancient historical records. These priests told Solon about a powerful civilization that had existed thousands of years earlier, an island empire located beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Today, we know this place as the Strait of Gibraltar, the narrow entrance between the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. Beyond that gateway, according to the story, lay a vast island. That island was Atlantis. Plato described Atlantis as a powerful and prosperous civilization. The island was said to be larger than Libya and Asia combined. Its cities were grand and carefully planned. Its capital was built with a series of circular canals connected by bridges and waterways. Ships traveled easily through these canals, carrying goods and people across the city. At the center stood a magnificent palace and temple complex dedicated to the sea god Poseidon. The island was rich in metals, fertile land, and natural resources. Its people built harbors, temples, and defensive walls. They were skilled sailors and traders, but their growing power would eventually lead them toward disaster. According to Plato, Atlantis did not remain a peaceful island nation. Over time, the Atlanteans became ambitious. Their wealth grew, their influence expanded, their navy grew powerful enough to dominate the seas. Soon the island empire began extending its control across distant territories. Plato describes Atlantis conquering large parts of the Mediterranean world. Many regions fell under Atlantean control. Only one city resisted, Athens. In Plato's story, ancient Athens stood as a symbol of discipline, courage, and unity. When the Atlanteans attempted to conquer the region, the Athenians fought back. Against overwhelming odds, Athens defeated the invading forces. But the story does not end with victory. Instead, it ends with catastrophe. Not long after the failed invasion, disaster struck Atlantis. Plato describes a series of powerful earthquakes. The ground shook violently, the land began to break apart, floods surged across the island. Then, in a single day and night, the entire civilization disappeared beneath the ocean. The island of Atlantis sank into the sea. Plato placed this event around 9,600 BC. That date is astonishingly ancient. It would place the destruction of Atlantis thousands of years before the rise of the Egyptian pyramids, and long before the earliest civilizations recorded in traditional history. When the island sank, Plato says the surrounding sea became impassable. The waters were filled with mud and debris from the submerged land, and just like that, the greatest island civilization of the ancient world was gone. For centuries, most scholars assumed the story was fictional. Plato often used imaginary societies to explore philosophical ideas. Atlantis seemed to fit that pattern. The story contained a clear moral lesson. The Atlanteans had once been virtuous, but wealth and power corrupted them. Their arrogance and aggression eventually led to their downfall. In contrast, Athens represented discipline and virtue. The story served as a warning about the dangers of greed and imperial ambition. From this perspective, Atlantis was simply a philosophical allegory, a powerful story meant to teach a moral lesson about the rise and fall of civilizations. But not everyone agrees with that interpretation. Some researchers believe Plato may have based his story on real historical events, and this possibility has led historians to search for clues about the ancient world. One theory connects Atlantis to a civilization that actually existed in the Mediterranean, the Minoans. The Minoan civilization flourished on the island of Crete around 4,000 years ago. It was one of the earliest advanced cultures in Europe. The Minoans built large cities, elaborate palaces, and extensive trade networks across the Mediterranean. Their ships carried goods to distant lands, and their art and architecture reveal a sophisticated society. But around 1600 BC, something devastating occurred. A massive volcanic eruption exploded on the nearby island of Thera. Today we know this island as Santorini. The eruption was one of the most powerful volcanic events in recorded history. Ash filled the sky, tsunami swept across the surrounding seas, entire coastal settlements were destroyed. Many historians believe this disaster severely weakened the Minoan civilization. Some researchers think the memory of this catastrophe may have survived in ancient stories, eventually becoming the legend of Atlantis. The similarities are intriguing. An advanced island culture, a powerful naval society, a sudden natural disaster. Yet the details do not match perfectly. The Minoan civilization existed thousands of years later than the date Plato gives for Atlantis, and Crete never sank beneath the sea. The mystery remains unsolved. Over the centuries, countless theories have attempted to locate Atlantis. Some researchers believe the island may lie somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. Others suggest it may have existed within the Mediterranean itself. Proposed locations include the Azores Islands, the Canary Islands, southern Spain, and even regions of the Caribbean. From time to time, explorers claim to have discovered underwater structures that could be remnants of an ancient civilization. But so far, none of these claims have been confirmed by archaeologists. The search for Atlantis is extremely difficult for one simple reason. Most of the ocean floor remains unexplored. More than 70% of the planet is covered by water. Even today, large areas of the seafloor have never been mapped in detail. If a city once existed beneath the ocean, its ruins could remain hidden for thousands of years. There is another reason why the story of Atlantis continues to intrigue historians. History has surprised us before. For centuries, the ancient city of Troy was believed to be purely fictional. It appeared in epic poetry, but no one has ever found its location. Then in the 19th century, an archaeologist named Heinrich Schliemann began excavating a site in modern-day Turkey. Beneath layers of earth, he discovered the ruins of a city that matched many descriptions of ancient Troy. A place once dismissed as legend turned out to be real. Discoveries like this remind us that myths sometimes preserve fragments of history. Stories passed down through generations may contain traces of real events that occurred long ago. This possibility keeps the search for Atlantis alive. Whether Atlantis existed or not, the story continues to fascinate people across the world. It represents one of humanity's oldest and most powerful ideas, the idea that even the greatest civilizations can disappear. Throughout history, entire cultures have risen to incredible heights and then vanished. Natural disasters, wars, environmental changes, and social collapse have erased societies that once seemed unstoppable. Atlantis captures this reality in dramatic form. A powerful civilization, a sudden catastrophe, a lost world beneath the sea. It reminds us that human history is far more fragile than we often believe. So was Atlantis a real civilization? Or was it simply a philosophical story created by Plato to teach a lesson about power and morality? After more than 2,000 years, no definitive answer has emerged, but the mystery itself has become part of the story. As technology improves, scientists continue to explore the depths of the ocean. New discoveries are being made every year. Hidden landscapes, ancient coastlines, and submerged ruins are slowly being revealed beneath the waves. Somewhere out there, the remains of forgotten civilizations may still lie waiting to be discovered. And if the legend of Atlantis holds even a fragment of truth, its ruins may still rest silently beneath the ocean floor, waiting for the day when history finally uncovers their secret.